actually realise how many hand knits I had in my wardrobe until I came to pull them all out to share with you in this video today. So if you're new here, I'm Sally and this is the third video in my knitting series talking all about how great knitting is and why you should do it. My two previous videos are all about how to get started knitting, and I will link those in the video description below just in case you've missed them and you want to pop over and check them out. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you everything that I've ever knit that I still own and still have in my wardrobe. I have been asked to make this video quite a few times now and I've always shied away from it for some reason. So today we're getting stuck in. I've pulled everything out of the wardrobe. I've put everything into organised piles. So as I go through the knits, I'm just going to be talking all about the pattern. I'll share a picture of me wearing the garment as well, just so that you can see what it looks like on. And I'm also going to give an approximate sort of knitting skill level that I think you need to be able to knit this pattern. So with all that said, let's get into it because I do have quite a few garments to share with you today. Starting with this one, I'm going to go from sort of older makes up to newer and more recent makes. So this is an older cardigan, an older knitting make, and I feel like this was the cardigan that kind of got me back into knitting, that reignited my spark for knitting and most of all for lace knitting. So this was actually a free knitting pattern which I found on Love Crafts. It's the Fred cardigan. I went back to have a little look to see if I could find this pattern when I was doing the research for this video, and unfortunately I don't think it's any longer available. So this cardigan has a V-neck, it's actually knit flat and then it's seamed up, and the ribbing all around the edge is actually knit separately and then sewn into the garment. The yarn I've used for this one is a cotton blend yarn. That's all I could find out about the yarn that I've used. I actually wrote a blog post on this cardigan once I'd finished it, and I included some photos of the knitting process and what it looked like when it was finished and everything, and how I found the pattern. But funnily enough, that blog post absolutely blew up on my website and it got hundreds and hundreds of views, and I really don't know how or why or where those views came from, but it was just one of those blog posts that just sort of went a bit viral and mad. But I was really pleased because I was so pleased with this cardigan when I'd finished it. I haven't worn this for quite some time. I mean, it must have been a good 7 years ago, I think, that I made this, which is crazy. And I haven't worn it for a while. And I think what's putting me off of wearing it is actually how bright and bold this mustard colour is. But getting it out and having a good old look at it as I was sort of preparing for this video, I thought I really must get this out and start wearing it again. Next in my cardigans list is the Rosa cardigan by Avec Anna. This one was everywhere at the time that I decided to knit this pattern. It was really popular over on Instagram and Ravelry, and I really like the look of the simplicity of this one, really. It's a really nice, simple style V-neck raglan increased cardigan. It is knit top down and it has these really pretty sort of V-style eyelets, raglan increases along the armhole or the shoulder armhole. So that just adds a really nice detail, I think. I've pinned this one together and I'll tell you why in a minute. So I really enjoyed knitting this pattern. I would say it's probably more of an advanced beginner to sort of intermediate level knitting maybe. I think I'm going to err on the side of caution with my skill levels for these patterns. The reason I'm going to give this a higher skill level is just because I did find parts of the pattern quite difficult to understand, and that might have just been me and where I was in my own sort of knitting skill level at the time that I did knit this. But I do remember sort of struggling with certain parts of how the pattern was written, particularly when it came to the button band. So I am not mathematical at all, and I really struggle when pattern designers get you to calculate where to put your own buttonholes. And that might be a silly thing to say, but I think it depends. I mean, if you are mathematical, you'll probably find something like that super easy, but for me I find it really, really difficult. So in the end I decided not to make any buttonholes on this cardigan. I didn't think I was going to wear it closed anyway. I thought it was definitely going to be the kind of cardigan that I would wear open with a cami or a vest or something underneath it. So I just decided to leave the buttonholes out, which is why I've pinned it together today so that I can show you what it looks like when it's closed and you can see the buttons. So I would definitely knit this pattern again, but I would definitely size up the next time I make this because I don't wear this that often. It's quite nice for wearing over dresses and high-waisted things because of the cropped nature of it. But for me, this is a little bit too fitted, and I also found the yarn to be quite stiff. This is knit in cotton merino by Drops, and it's not the softest cotton, I would say. And it's not got a lot of drape to it either. So I think if I make this cardigan again, I would definitely use a more drapey and a more soft yarn. And I will size up as well. And I think that would probably suit me better. Next, we have this Sirdar pattern. So this is an older style pattern. I would say this is like the Sirdar and the patterns and things like that. They're kind of the equivalent, I think, to the big four patterns in the sewing world, aren't they? They're like the old style knitting patterns that I always used to love going to the yarn store and just looking through all the booklets to see what knitting patterns were available. There's so many more indie knitting pattern designers around now, aren't there, which are great, and I do tend to use those more. But yeah, this one, I was just really attracted to this pattern because of the lace design on the front of the cardigan. So this is like an arrow shaped lace design, and I would say that the knitting level for this pattern is probably more on the intermediate level, just because of how much lace there is in this cardigan. That said, it is knit flat again, this one, and it is seamed up, which I do think possibly makes it a little bit easier, depending on how you started your own knitting life. If you started knitting flat, then this kind of pattern is going to be easier for you, but if you started knitting top down and in the round, then you'd possibly find it a little bit frustrating. Because of how much I love knitting lace, I did enjoy knitting this pattern, and the yarn I've used for this is really lovely. It's a Rowan cotton cashmere, so it's a cotton, but it's got a really nice soft feel because of the cashmere in it. So this is one of my older knits, and I would say that I haven't worn this again for quite some time, and I think that's just because I've sort of put it away in favour for my more sort of recent knits, and I probably do need to get this out again and just try and style it up a little bit more. It's quite long, so I do struggle a little bit to know how to style it. I feel like it would have been better if it was slightly more cropped. It does feel slightly old-fashioned to me, and I don't know if that's just because I know that it's quite an old-fashioned pattern. I think the lace looks slightly old-fashioned as well because it's so repetitive, and that also sometimes puts me off of wearing this. But that said, there's so much work in this, I really should wear it probably more than I do. And I love the buttons that I've used on this as well. I've used some sort of silvery sparkly buttons. I'm delighted to be partnering at this point of the video with Kdo. I've been testing out two great products recently from Kdo, the electric yarn winder and also the electric automatic I-cord knitting machine. But before I tell you a little bit more about those products, let me share a little bit more about Kdo. Kdo's strapline is craft anything you dream of, and they stock loads of crafting tools and accessories on their website, ranging from knitting to sewing and arts and crafts. Personally, I think Kdo is not only a great place for knitters and crafters like you and I, but also for kids too, because they have loads of art and design kits on their website that I know I would have loved as a child. So first, let me show you the electric yarn winder. I was really excited to try this product out because I've been stung more than once in the past by trying to wind scraps and skeins of yarn by hand and getting in such a tangle that I've ended up having to throw the yarn away and rebuy. And I'm not proud to admit that. The Kdo electric yarn winder makes winding yarns into cakes super quick and easy. There's minimal assembly on arrival, and the machine clamps onto a desk and connects with a USB cable to power. Threading takes only a few easy steps, and once that's done, you can leave the winder to do its thing, leaving you time to get on and do something more exciting, like more crafting perhaps. If you are planning on winding skeins of yarn though, I would perhaps suggest buying a yarn winder just to ensure that you definitely don't get into a tangle. I actually also think this yarn winder would come in really handy for unraveling projects. I have a project that I need to unravel, and I'm really excited to try this out and see if it will help me wind it back into yarn cakes. So let's move on to the I-cord knitting machine then. I absolutely loved testing this out, and I spent a very happy couple of hours the other day making some knitted I-cord and turning it into these lovely flowers which can be made into brooches, bag charms and also hair ties. Again, the I-cord knitting machine was very quick and easy to assemble. It doesn't take up much space and plugs into the mains to power on. The knitting machine does take a little bit of threading, but there are full instructions for how to do this in the included manual, and the manual does include a scannable QR code which will take you to a YouTube video you can watch if you're more of a visual learner. I can't actually believe how fast this thing knits. It's actually a little bit mesmerising to watch. If you love fun crafts, you're going to love trying out the range of things you can make with this I-cord knitting machine, ranging from signs and lettering to Christmas decorations and shapes. You can even actually use the I-cord to crochet baskets, bags and blankets, which is something I'm very much looking forward to having a go at. Crafty kids and adults alike will love making these things together, and I think this machine would make a great gift too. I know I would have loved to receive this as a child. I think you're going to love the wide range of crafty products available over on the KDO website, so do pop over and check them out after you've finished watching this video. I'll leave a link to their website and the products that I've mentioned today in the description below this video. The products are all really reasonably priced, and there are lots of discount codes available on the website too. You can also claim 10% off of your first order by signing up to the KDO mailing list. Thank you so much to KDO for sponsoring this part of the video. So because I'm moving more into cardigans that I've now knit top down, I just wanted to mention the Petite knit Novice cardigan, because you may remember, if you followed me for a long time, you might remember that I have knit this cardigan. It hasn't made it into my collection today, and that is because I've since passed on the version that I did knit. So I'll pop in a picture of it here now. But I really wanted to mention this cardigan because I absolutely loved this pattern. It was the first cardigan that I knit top down, and the instructions were great and I really enjoyed knitting it. I found it super easy to follow, really enjoyed it, and I did like the end result. The only thing that I couldn't get past with this pattern or this garment was one, the colour that I'd used, and I'll come on to that a little bit more later on as well, but this grey really did not suit me, and also I hated the feel of the yarn that I'd used. I don't know why I chose that yarn. I think it was actually just because it was reasonably priced in Hobbycraft, and I picked it up because I just wanted to test out this pattern and see if I could do it, so I wasn't necessarily thinking too much about the kind of yarn that I like to wear. So that cardigan has gone, but I really wanted to include that pattern because it's a great one for beginners and if you are wanting to start knitting top down, and I definitely want to come back to this pattern and revisit it and knit it again at some point. Right, on to my Whitmore cardigan obsession. So after my success and slight failure with the Petite knit Novice cardigan, I realised that I actually could knit top down, and that kind of opened up a world of new knitting patterns to me. And I'd eyed up the Whitmore cardigan for ages. I've seen loads of people knit it, thought it was really beautiful, but had always thought up until that point, I don't think I can do that. I think it's beyond my skill level. But since I'd found knitting top down easier than I thought I'm just gonna try it. I'm just gonna have a go. If it goes wrong, it doesn't matter. And I just got over myself basically and gave it a go, and I really enjoyed knitting it. So the Whitmore cardigan pattern is, I would say, an intermediate level pattern, if not advanced. And the reason I'm saying that is because it is knit top down. There is a lace raglan which includes increases that you've got to keep an eye on. There's quite a lot going on with this, and not only that, the button band is also knit at the same time as the rest of the cardigan, and that's knit on a separate knitting needle, so you've got quite a lot of sort of needles and things on the go as well. But I would say that the pattern is really well written. What I love about Amy Loudon's patterns is that she writes everything out in text for those people like me at the time that love to sort of follow text rather than charts. So she writes everything out, but she also does all of her lace in charts as well. So it's quite a nice easy pattern to follow, I would say, but there's just quite a lot going on. This lace pattern though, it is quite repetitive. You're increasing it as you're knitting it, which is why the sort of V shape of the lace ends up getting bigger and bigger as you go down, and you're also obviously creating space for the wider part of your body, so around the broadest part of your chest and back. But the pattern is quite easy to follow. The lace pattern is quite easy to follow, and is one of those that you really do get the hang of the more you do it. So in time, and the more you do it, you do get to the point, I think, or I did anyway, where you can just sort of knit it without thinking too much about it. So with the Whitmore cardigan, there are various different versions that you can knit. You can knit a cropped version, or you can knit a full-length version, which this is, and you can also knit a tapered sleeve or a balloon sleeve. So this one has the tapered sleeve. This is knit from a Debbie Bliss cotton merino, I think. I don't know, I don't remember the exact blend of yarn, but it's a Debbie Bliss cotton of some kind, and it feels super soft, and I love wearing this one in springtime. It's a lovely colour as well. So I actually have 2 more Whitmore cardigans in my Whitmore collection. I have this grey one. This one is more of a wintry, autumn-winter Whitmore cardigan. This one is knit in Rowan Kid Classic, so it's much more fluffy and it's got a really sort of cosy texture to it. So for this version, I've actually knit the cropped length, which I find works better for me. So for this one, I actually did the balloon sleeve version. So with a balloon sleeve, you just knit the sleeve straight, and then all of the decreasing is done in the cuff, so you end up with this sort of poofy sleeve, which I actually really like. I much prefer to knit a sleeve in that way. It's easier for one thing, and actually I think it looks really nice as well. My third and final Whitmore cardigan, for now at least, is this one. This one is knit in a Sirdar merino cashmere. That's what the back of the yoke looks like. It's so pretty, isn't it? I just love this lace design. I really do need to knit a Whitmore sweater actually, because I've never done that so far. It's the exact same lace yoke, but just in sweater form. I actually think this Whitmore is probably my favourite just because of the colour. I absolutely love the colour of this. So again, with this one, I've just knit the cropped version and I've done the balloon sleeve. Moving on to this one, this very well worn and very well loved cardigan. This is the Latte cardigan by Mode at Rowan, and it's in their brushed fleece. And I've used the exact yarn that they've used and recommended in the book to knit this cardigan, and I'd highly recommend doing that because this yarn is the coziest yarn ever. It's so soft and squishy, and I wear this cardigan all the time. This is like a comfort cardigan actually. You know when you've just got one of those cardigans that you just pull out all the time to put on if you're cold at home or if you want to feel snuggly, or yeah, I just absolutely love this, and it was the easiest cardigan to knit. This is very beginner friendly, this pattern, I would say. In fact, I recommended this pattern in my beginner video. So you probably would have heard me talk about this before, but it's very quick and easy. The body, so the back and the 2 fronts, are actually just knit in simple rectangles with very minimal shaping at the shoulders. The sleeves do have a tiny bit of raglan shaping, but they don't have any ribbing at the end of the sleeves or at the bottom of the hem. The only ribbing you actually do in this cardigan is just all around the sides and the back, which, let's be honest, is a little bit of a task because this is quite a long cardigan. But if you can knit and purl and do a basic increase and decrease, then you'll be fine to knit this cardigan, and I would highly recommend it. It's a lovely one, and I really do need to knit another one of these. I keep saying that, and I think it will possibly get put off till autumn time now, but knitting another one of these is definitely in my future knitting plans. So moving on to a couple of knits that you possibly will have seen if you are a regular around here. They are more recent knits. This is the first cardigan it's called, by Hive Knits, and this is a lovely top down raglan increased cardigan with half fisherman's rib sleeves. I've wanted to knit something in fisherman's rib or half fisherman's rib for ages because I've seen loads of patterns with this kind of stitch in, and it just looks so squishy and so cozy. I really did want to try it out. So this one I would say is probably more intermediate level. And the reason I'm giving it an intermediate rating is because it's knit top down with raglan increases. The fisherman's rib, if you've not done it before, you do have to sort of get your head around doing that and also increasing at the same time. And what I would say is probably the most difficult or tricky or fiddly part of this cardigan is knitting this double knit button band. So this was the first time I had ever knit a double knit button band. And in terms of the stitches that you're knitting, it is reasonably easy. It's just knit and purl done in a different kind of way, but it is kind of fiddly and it does take a very long time to do. I thoroughly enjoyed knitting this though. I really do enjoy knitting raglan top-down cardigans, especially if they include a bit of detail in the sleeves. Just in case you don't know, if you are knitting this way top-down, you will knit all in one piece, including part of the sleeve when you're doing the yoke or the raglan increases, and then at a certain point when you get to the underarm hole, you'll then put your stitches on hold and then join the body and just knit the body until you get to the hem, and then later on you then pick up the sleeves and you knit those in the round. It does all sound a bit complicated, but I promise it isn't as difficult as you might think. And I always find that knitting top down or knitting in the round just comes together so much more quickly for me than knitting flat. And of course there is always the bonus that you don't have to seam anything up at the end, which is great. The yarn I used for this version of the first cardigan was a combination of Drops Nord and Drops Kid Silks, and it produced this really lovely fluffy texture. I used the yellow in the Drops Nord, and then the Kid Silk was like a creamy off-white, so it just gives it a little bit of a slight white flecky texture throughout, which I actually quite like too. So on to my most recent cardigan knit, and I actually cast this on at the same time as I was knitting the first cardigan. I'd come to a point with the first cardigan where I just needed a little bit of a break from it. I think I'd come to the point where I needed to start the sleeves, and I just wanted something easy on the go, as well as doing the fisherman's rib that I could just pick up and not have to think too much about. So I started this Mia cardigan by Coco Amour knitwear, and this is actually very similar in construction to the Hive Knits cardigan in the way that it's actually knit top down. So it's stocking stitch on the two fronts and then stocking stitch on the back. And then there is like a broken rib detail through the sleeves, and that rib detail just runs down the sides of the cardigan as well. Again, I just thoroughly enjoyed knitting this one. I would say this is slightly easier than the first cardigan just because the broken rib is easier, I found, to knit than the fisherman's rib. So if you're looking for a sort of similar style pattern and something that's a little bit easier than trying out fisherman's rib, then I would highly recommend this pattern. Again though, this does have the double knit button band on it, which I am a total convert to. I just think it gives such a professional finish, doesn't it? And so much easier in a way than picking up and knitting rib, and I just absolutely love it. This was knit from the same yarn combination as my Hive Knits cardigan. It was Drops Nord in sage green held with Kid Silk in the same off-white as I'd used for the yellow cardigan. So I really am a fan of those two yarns held together. I just think it produces such a lovely soft fluffy texture. Right, so moving on to sweaters then. I'm gonna have to try not to talk too much because we are going to be here forever. This is the Lighthouse sweater by We Are Knitters. I knit this as a kit from We Are Knitters, and funnily enough I'm going to be sharing a few different We Are Knitters kits in this video, but none of them are any longer available. I absolutely love this jumper. I was so pleased with how it turned out once I'd knit it. This is very me. If you know me, you'll know that I love a stripe. So I was very taken with this pattern when I saw it on the website. This is actually knit flat. It's a very simple style sweater and it would be great for beginners as well. So it's knit flat, it's knit stripy, so you are changing colours throughout. It's a stocking stitch pattern with just a little bit of rib at the bottom and around the neckline and on the sleeve cuffs as well. So I think what makes this pattern quite interesting is that you're knitting in two different yarn combinations. So the navy is like a very soft yarn. I can't remember the combinations of what these yarns are actually. They are We Are Knitters' own brands of yarn. But this one, the white or cream, is more of a lace weight yarn. So they're two very different sort of yarn compositions, that's the word I'm looking for. But together they work quite nicely and it adds a really interesting bit of texture. So yeah, I really do like this jumper. I was so pleased with it when it was finished. The only thing I would say about this is that it has stretched out quite a lot and it's really quite baggy compared to how it fit when I'd first finished knitting it. I haven't worn this for a while actually, I have to say, and getting it out again is just making me want to wear it. So I'm going to have to get this out and try and wear it a little bit more in the springtime perhaps. It's quite a nice spring sort of style, isn't it, this one, because of the stripes. And I think it will work well if we do still continue to have these colder spring days. Next is another kit by We Are Knitters, and this one, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, it's got a really funny name. It's the Zerolum sweater. Again, no longer available, or at least I couldn't find it on their website. But I'm going to put this one down as a bit of a fail because I really don't like it. So this is a very strange design, I would say, but it's knit pretty much in 2 rectangles. It's knit flat and seamed together. The back and front are rectangular basically. And then the neckline is picked up just on the straight, like, top of the neckband or the top of the rectangle. So it feels very uncomfortable to wear because you've got no rounded neckline shaping. It was a really strange design which I hadn't picked up on, unfortunately, until I'd knit the whole thing and tried it on. The other thing about this is that the yarn is not great. It's quite a stiff cotton yarn. It doesn't feel very comfortable to wear, and it did come up a little bit more fitted than I would perhaps like. I've never actually worn this one out of the house. I've still got it because it was a lot of work, and it was also a lot of money because We Are Knitters kits are not cheap. And to be honest, I just haven't really known what to do with this. I guess I could try and unpick it all, unravel it all, wind it into balls and maybe do something else with it. That would be the most sensible thing to do, really, wouldn't it? So I might look at doing that at some point. It didn't quite turn out how I was imagining in my head, but nonetheless quite fun to knit, nice and quick and easy, just a stocking stitch stripe with a little bit of ribbing. I mean, really it's quite a nice style. I do like this side seam where it's got the split here with the rib. I think that should be a really nice style. It's just a shame that they hadn't sort of spent more time on the actual design and just made a better neckline. Maybe that's why it's not available on their website anymore. Perhaps lots of people found that, I don't know. But yeah, that's that one. A bit of a fail, unfortunately. I may as well do my last and final We Are Knitters kit. This is the Cara sweater. Again, a really great one for beginners. This is V-neck style, as you can see, but otherwise it's just all knit in garter stitch, and again, pretty flat and rectangular, not a lot of shaping in there. There's just a tiny bit of rib at the bottom of the sweater and then on the sleeves as well. And because it's knit from a really chunky yarn, it came together really, really quickly. I love the pink colour of this. It's a really lovely colour, and I also love the texture of this yarn. So it's the kind of yarn that's sort of thick in some areas and then it goes thin and then it gets bobbly and thick again. So you get this really nice sort of bumbly boucle kind of texture to the garment. I really do like this jumper. What I would say is that it's very heavy. It's very thick and heavy to wear, so you really need to be wearing it on a really cold day. And what I found when I was wearing this was if I was wearing it on a cold day, my neck was exposed and I didn't like that. So I could have worn it with a scarf, of course, that would be the sensible thing to do, but I'm not really much of a scarf wearer. I prefer to have like a higher neckline on a cosy jumper, either crew neck or slightly raised, slightly turtleneck. So although I have worn this, but perhaps not for some time, it was just one of those that I found quite difficult to wear, if you know what I mean. So not the greatest success actually with any of my We Are Knitters kits, apart from the Lighthouse sweater, which, as I say, probably just needs a wash and a reshape, and I maybe need to get that out and try and wear it again. The next sweater is the Novice sweater by Petite Knit. So this is the sweater version of the cardigan that I talked about earlier. And this was actually the first sweater that I ever knit in the round. Again, I would highly recommend this pattern if you are someone that wants to learn how to knit a sweater in the round. I would say it's very beginner friendly. So this one is knit in like a rounded yoke with increases as you go. It does have this high turtle neck, but it does say that you can fold that in if you want to and sew it down so that you've got more of a crew neck sweater. This is knit from Drops Air yarn, which is a really lovely, cozy yarn. It's so soft and so lovely. But yeah, knitting this one in the round, it just made me realise that actually knitting in the round is not that difficult at all. It was very, I'm not going to say easy to do, but it was much more easy than I thought it was going to be. I'd put off knitting in the round for so long because I was so scared of it. But once I just actually gave the sweater a go, it was absolutely fine and it came together super quickly, especially because this yarn is quite chunky. What I was going to mention about the colour is that I realised going through all of my older knits that I did have a bit of a thing about grey, and grey doesn't always suit me very well, especially not lighter grey. The only downside of this version that I've knit, I would say, is that again, I just feel like it's a little bit more fitted than I would like. I would love to revisit this pattern and knit it again and just knit it in a bigger size. I just think I need a little bit more room in it. It feels kind of fitted around the yoke and the shoulder area. and a little bit clingy around the neck. I could sew the neckline down, but I actually quite like the higher neck. I just feel like I need it to be a little bit more roomy, but this is very much one that I do pull out and I do wear in the winter time because it's super soft and cozy, and I can't wait to knit this pattern again actually. Another sweater pattern that is great for beginners is this one, is the Rowan Ludham sweater. It's actually quite similar in style to the Petite knit Novice sweater, but this one is actually knit flat and seamed up. So this is a nice baggy sort of oversized sweater. It's a drop shoulder and it has these really wide sleeves. So super easy to knit because the back and front are pretty much rectangular. There is a bit of shaping around the neckline, but the sleeves, if I remember correctly, are just rectangles and there's not any sort of shaping in the ribbing. This is knit from Rowan's softest alpaca yarn, and I would say it's sort of the equivalent to Drops Air, but I think this one is even softer and even more cozy, and I think it's slightly thicker actually than Drops Air as well. I absolutely love this yarn. It's so cozy, I love it, and I love the colour of this as well. So a really great pattern for beginners and great if you want something cozy and oversized and you're more sort of inclined to knit flats. The only thing I would say, the downside about this pattern I find is that I don't like these sleeves being so baggy at the bottom. So even though I do like the look of these sleeves and the fact that they're really sort of oversized and casual, they're not always the most practical. If I hadn't knit this flat and seamed it up, I would probably look to sort of undoing the ribbing, decreasing around the cuff, and then redoing the ribbing in a more sort of balloon style sleeve. But I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that because of how this has been seamed together. We will see, I'll have a look. If not, I might just run some elastic around the cuff to bring it in. I would definitely knit this one again, but I would adapt the sleeves to be balloon style rather than as wide and drapey as they are. This is my most recent sweater knit. This is sweater number 9 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. I absolutely love this sweater. If you couldn't already tell, I have talked about this quite a lot recently because it's just recently off the needles, as I say. This is a great beginner friendly pattern as well, so if you are someone that has a little bit of knitting experience, maybe you want to progress into knitting in the round, I would highly recommend this pattern. And if you're like me, I prefer a raglan shaped sweater actually. I think they suit me and my shape better than the rounded yoke. But yeah, super simple stocking stitch style sweater, but just with this interesting sort of raglan increase down the back and front, which just adds a little bit to an otherwise quite plain sweater, I think. This one does have quite a high neckline. I did shorten it slightly so it's not quite as high on me as it's supposed to be in the pattern. I don't always like a really high tight neckline, so that just worked better for me. This is knit from Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino, and their lace weight held together. Just adding the lace weight and knitting them together just gives a more cozy, more fluffy texture. Again, this is a pattern that I will very much be knitting again in the winter time, and I think again I will size up next time and just knit it a little bit bigger and probably a little bit longer as well, because I think I would love to wear a sweater like this with leggings and boots. But yeah, a really good one for beginners to try, especially if you're wanting to learn to knit in the round. I very nearly forgot to include this one because it had been packed away with all of my winter clothing, but this is another Rowan brush fleece knits. This is the silver sweater, and again, just such a lovely cozy sweater. I love this one too. It's great for really, really cold days and it's nice and long, so I feel like I can wear this one with leggings. I would say this is a really good sort of advanced beginner knit. So it's quite simple to knit. It's knit flat, but it does include this cable design on the front. I think the cable design is actually included on the back as well in the pattern, but I decided to just knit the back in stocking stitch and just have the cable on the front. No ribbing at the bottom, it just kind of curls up, which I think is quite nice. And then the sleeves are, it's a drop shoulder, so the sleeves are quite short and there is a little bit of shaping in the sleeves, but again, no ribbing. And then you pick up the stitches and knit the neckline flat. It's doubled over, so you get this sort of really soft, cozy turtleneck. Really quick and easy to knit, really. If you have got some experience, it comes together so quickly because this yarn is super chunky. Definitely another pattern that I would revisit. I feel like I have talked for ages. Moving on very quickly to sort of sleeveless and more summery knits. This is the Rowan Salt House tank top. I would say this is an advanced beginner knit probably. It's part knit flat and part knit in the round. So you start at the bottom with this one and you're knitting in the round bottom up, and then you split for the sleeves and then you sort of join the top together, and then the ribbing at the neckline and the armholes is all done in the round. This is knit from Rowan Alpaca and Alpaca Haze held together, which is a really lovely texture. I do love Rowan yarns, I have to say. They are a little bit more pricey, I would say, than Drops yarn, for example, but the quality is just always lovely. And these two yarns held together just give a really lovely soft cozy sort of drapey texture. So I absolutely love this pattern. I really enjoyed knitting it, and I love the end result, except for the fact that, again, I've just used completely the wrong colour for me in this. So this light grey, I don't think, you might be able to tell on the camera, I'm not sure, but it really doesn't suit me. And I did wear this a couple of times when I'd finished it, and every time I wore it I thought, I look really tired today. Or I look like I've got dark shadows under my eyes, and I kind of put two and two together and realised that actually it was the colour of this that was really draining me. So I've actually passed this one on to my daughter now, because she quite likes to wear tank tops and knitted tops and things like this. So she has got this one, and I'm going to knit this again in a better colour for me. I actually really like the green shade that they've used in the pattern images. But yeah, as far as the pattern goes and as far as the yarn goes, a really lovely knit. And I would recommend the pattern. It's just one that I've just not thought about the colour properly with. This lovely little summer top is the Thea Vest, and I found this pattern on Etsy. I really enjoyed knitting this pattern. It was a different kind of knitting style or technique for me. So you actually knit from the top down, if I remember correctly, and you're using a provisional cast on to pick up the stitches, which was new to me. So this one did include a few sort of different and new to me techniques, which I quite enjoyed. I can't remember the yarn that I used for this, but it's a very drapey, very soft cotton yarn. I love this pattern. The only thing I would say about it is that the armholes are very low, very big and very low. So if I ever knit this again, I'll have a look and think about how I can raise the armholes, because it just makes it slightly difficult when you're wearing something underneath. So I generally tend to wear like a little cami or something underneath any knitted vest that I wear like this, and the cami kind of shows out at the top of these armholes. So yeah, that's the only sort of downside to this pattern, but otherwise it's a really lovely vest, and I love the scoop neckline as well. I think it's really sort of flattering and it's not too low. I actually have two versions of this little summer top. This is the simple vest pattern by Debbie Bliss. I've knit it twice, as I say. This one is knit flat, so you're knitting the back and front separately and then seaming up the side seams and the shoulder seams. It's a really nice sort of stocking stitch design. I would say this is more beginner friendly actually than the pattern that I've just showed you, just because it's knit flat and seamed up. This is a better shape for me, I think. The neckline is a little bit higher and the armholes aren't quite so low. So rather than a ribbing around the neckline and armholes, you just pick up the stitches and you do a couple of rows of stocking stitch and cast off, and it just gives this sort of curly, almost like an I-cord kind of texture around the neckline and the armholes, which is quite nice. For this one I've used Rowan Cotton DK. I was kindly sent some samples of their cotton yarns to try out, and I decided to use them all in one top and I just sort of created this lovely stripy summer top, which I'm excited to wear this year, because I think I'd finished it sort of at the end of summer last year, so I didn't really get much wear out of it. And I also have the exact same top in a white. So this is not a Rowan cotton. I can't remember where I got the cotton for this, but it's nowhere near as soft as the Rowan cotton. So yeah, the Rowan does win in terms of cottons with these two versions. This one is obviously much more easy to wear than the stripy one, because it would just go with everything. Then I also have this, which I knit last summertime. This is the Tolster Tank by the Creabea. I love this pattern. It's a really, really good pattern, and actually she has quite a few different neckline variations for this. So for some reason I decided to go for the very low V-neck front and back style for this vest. I think, again, I just wanted to try out the pattern, so I picked up a very cheap acrylic yarn from Hobbycraft and just decided to give the pattern a go and see what I thought of it. This one I would say is a very good beginner friendly pattern as well. This one is knit in the round though, so you're knitting in the round from the bottom up, separating at the armholes for the straps, and then sort of knitting this V at the front and back. super quick to knit, I would say. This one took me not very long at all. I can't remember exactly how long, but I remember it being very speedy because there's no ribbing either around the armholes or the neckline. It kind of curls under, which it's supposed to do, and that's just the sort of easy finish of it, and it's very cropped, so there's not a lot of knitting at all in this really. I would prefer this to be a higher back. I would prefer it to be a high back and a lower front rather than low at the front and the back. But nonetheless, it's a really lovely little summer top that does go really nicely with lots of my trousers and things. And so the last pattern that I'm going to talk about today has to be the one that I'm wearing and also my most recent knit, and that is the Tolsta Tee. So by the same designer as the little vest that I just showed you. This is by the Kriabia and it's the t-shirt version of the Tolster. I really love this pattern. I originally shied away from this pattern because it includes German short rows, which were a knitting barrier for me for quite some time. I would put off trying any pattern that included German short rows, and then one day I decided to get over myself, try knitting the version that I've got on today. I already had this yarn in my stash. Again, it's a Rowan cotton DK and I was kindly gifted it, so I thought, I've already got the yarn, I'm just going to give the pattern a go, try out the German short rows. If it goes wrong, it doesn't matter, I'll just frog it and use the yarn for something else, but I really just need to get over myself and do the German short rows. So I first of all knit the version that I've got on today, and not only did I decide to be brave and do the German short rows, but I also decided to include the eyelet pattern. So the pattern itself only includes the basic t-shirt design, which is this one. So it's just a stocking stitch knit. It's a raglan t-shirt style, knit in the round, top down, and it's quite nice and cropped as well. But the pattern actually includes in the images a few different variations of the pattern for inspiration. So I think a few people like me have bought the pattern because there is a lovely eyelet version in her sort of pattern images. And that was the version that I really wanted to knit, but unfortunately there aren't instructions included in the pattern for how to do the eyelets. So I had to make up this pattern by myself and luckily for me it worked out okay. And this is probably one of my most favourite t-shirt tops that I own now that I've knit, so sometimes it's worth giving things a go. So I've got this version of that pattern, and then I've also got this corally orangey pink version that I've literally just finished, and this one is just stocking stitch. This is knit from a cotton as well, but it's a Women's Institute cotton from Hobbycraft. This is a lovely cotton though, it's very soft and very drapey, and I almost prefer it actually to the version that I've got on today in terms of how it sort of sits and how it drapes when I'm wearing it. So yeah, a really lovely pattern, definitely one that I'm going to be revisiting probably a lot in the future. I'd love to try a stripy one or another eyelet pattern one or something like that. But yeah, if you are someone that sort of wants to give German short rows a go, or you just want a really simple t-shirt knitting pattern in your life, then I highly recommend this pattern. It's a very popular pattern in the knitting community, I would say, isn't it? Wow, I feel like I've talked a lot in this video. There were way more knits than I thought I had actually to share with you today. I really hope it's been interesting to have a look at all of the knitted garments that are still in my wardrobe. It's definitely been interesting for me. I've really enjoyed going back over some of my older knits and sort of getting them out and having a think about them, thinking about why I don't wear them and maybe how to sort of style them and wear them in the future. So thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Don't forget to pop over and check out Kadu, and I'll leave all the details for them in the video description below. Where I can, I will link all of these knitting patterns in the video description as well. But if there's anything that I've missed or any more information that you'd like, then don't hesitate to leave me a comment and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching everyone. Take care and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.